The only problem to see is if you start changing things, there's a lot of people out there who are still paying an assessment. They're 10 years into a 20-year assessment. Is it fair? When's it not fair and fair to people?
Yep, and yes, good point. Good point, because you do have a lot of people, just like you said, that are sitting there calling every year saying, hey, when's my $10,000 assessment go to $5,000 and I'll tap in. Right. And
but then there's people next door who tapped in or paying year 15 on it, and they paid all these years, and then the guy next to him is getting the reduced rate.
Exactly. So, yeah, yes.
Okay. And Mayor, to your point about that you had made a comment regarding where we go, this might be a good test case for council to, kind of get our feet wet. Is this something that you would support moving forward, or you have reservations with and not at this time?
If we go forward with this as a test case, and then we get information from that, and then we have another test case present itself, and the information is different, the problem that I'm seeing that gives me concern is essentially doing things piecemeal and essentially creating the problem that Russ was actually confirmed on that. There are folks that are midway through or 15 years out of a 20-year assessment, and where are we going to draw this line and how? To sit there and say, well, let's do the test case, if there's no parameters, if there's no metrics to actually determine whether the test case is successful or not, and for whom is it successful? Are we doing something that benefits 5 residents? And I have nothing against those residents, but the city is supposed to be generally providing citywide services to all, not piecemeal on something like this. I have no problem with running water to any resident who wants it. What I haven't heard yet is a convincing argument that the system that is designed and in place must be circumvented or otherwise an exception created. We were told here tonight that petition, do it. If the question is, well, it's going to cost them too much, what about the ones that have paid the 15 years of a 20-year assessment? Do we suddenly create a legal unintended consequence where suddenly we're getting claims that we should refund people some money back because we assessed them 15 years out of a 20-year? I don't think that that's proper, but the question is, where do we draw that line? So, as of this time, I can't express an opinion on test case or not because I don't have enough answers.
So I'm looking at the map, and I see a red line from the back of the apartments through the fire station to these properties. We do not have to put that red line in there for anything that we're doing with the fire station.
All we need for the fire station is a service line.
Okay. So that red line, that $40,000 there that needs to be put in, we don't need to do for any project that we're doing.
No, we don't need to.
Okay. So if these residents wanted water normally, and they didn't have that there, there's a line that looks like it goes on Old Troy Pike. You would extend the thing from Old Troy Pike to that business down along to the other 3 residents that are down there, and then you would assess them all accordingly.
There's, on the other side of Old Troy Pike, there is a water main there.
Right.
They could tap into.
Right.
They have 4 under the street and have a very long service line, which then get into pressure issues and those kind of things for longer.
Sure, but it would cost them a lot more than $40,000 as a group to get that water.
Sure.
Okay, so yes, just because it's our property line there, that $40,000 is a lot less than the $70,000 or $80,000 that they'd have to split between them if they were doing it normally. Right? So we don't need to build that line. Why would we build that line?
So we can have more customers on the line and provide water service to our residents.
Help me out in front of Mark Avenue. Would you put a service line in front of the houses in Mark, or would you put a line?
Water main extension
Yes.
along the streets.
Okay, so if you took a water main from Old Troy Pike and put it all the way out to that last business, then they would have enough water pressure.
It'd be a longer span and cost more.
Right. But you would assess it against the houses that wanted it.
And it would go across some that already have water.
There's houses that already have water on that road.
To the south of the car wash and to the south there, they're on the water system already. So to extend from further to the south,
They have
in front of
service
their
lines?
properties, they already have service lines.
They have service lines that go into there. Yeah, okay.
Mayor, this is off topic and it's already been discussed a lot, but with your point on Mark Avenue, that might be a specific discussion to have in another meeting in a couple weeks, because I believe with that extension, it would be too expensive with the cul-de-sac and the residents that live on Mark Avenue at the end, that where they could afford to pay the reasonable amount. And the city's, my understanding, the past practice is to charge the residents for that. And with a few houses, 3 or 4, I think that the expense is exorbitant. But council does have the authority to declare a hardship and then still have the citizens pay for a portion of that, and the city could then use the water fund money or sewer fund money, whichever one, to pick up the cost as an, because those are citizens at the end of Mark Avenue that and they want to in the middle of the city.
I'd have to actually go talk to the residents again to see exactly what they were willing to pay for or not willing to pay for, because I'm certain that at least one of them told me
I'll take your one and add 2 more.
that they were willing to pay for it. It's if they just couldn't get the last person to do it, and the city didn't want to do it unless it went all the way to the end of the road, something like that. And so you wouldn't be able to assess it for the one at the end of the road.
I believe there's 1 or 2 people on there that have wells that work fine, and they didn't want to tap into it. So it became an issue of who's going to pay for it. It's only 3 people. There's only, I think, 5 houses that don't have service. So whether they would cover the cost for 3 houses, and I think it just wasn't feasible for them to do it.
Yes, yeah, but we'd have to speak to them. My point in bringing them up was, here we're going to pay $40,000. Yeah. Where
I happen to know as much information on that as you do because they've talked to me as well. So, but we can.
And I don't know. My point is, I don't know that it's good practice to get into paying $40,000 for things that we expect other residents to pay for out there, and I don't think that we can afford to pay all the costs for all the people that need a lot of these services. And quite frankly, I really haven't heard any reason why we should be paying for it now, unless we would say that we've actually are the cause of the problems with their wells. But other than that, I don't know why we would consider paying for it. Go ahead.
Well, again, this is getting off topic, but I can give you a reason. That might be a discussion for another committee.
No, go ahead. I mean, I would like to know why why we should pick up this cost, because I don't believe that we would be paying it for any other group of citizens.
Well, the group of citizens, I believe, are still going to pay a cost and a share of this. Now, I mean, the red line, I understand the city will pick up for, but we're extending services. So what's a local government to do but to help the residents receive services? Basic services, water. That's my position. It may be a philosophical difference, and I think they should be paying for their share. I think we pay for laterals. We require all citizens to pay for laterals, and the city extends the water mains, the main lines.
No, that's the problem with Mark. If we would put in the main line on Mark Avenue, those people would happily tie into the laterals.
But we would only be putting that in for 5 houses.
You put it in for 3 here.
It's expense. I mean, it's a cost. I would do it for Mark Avenue myself, but I don't get that choice.
I mean, I wish we could do it for everybody, but the thing is, when you start doing it for some and you can't do it for others, how do you pick and choose? So right now, I'm trying to
make a plan and do a little bit at a time.
You know, because I'd rather see you put 1.5 and 40,000 into doing another half a mile of roads.
But I think the different issue is the fact that if it was a private developer going in there, we would have made them do it. So we're that private developer. We're going to make ourselves do it.
Okay, well, I don't know that I heard that we could make them do it. I'm not sure that we should have, or we absolutely would. And then it goes back to my question, then why, if we knew that we would make a private developer do this, is this $40,000 not already in the fire station budget? Because it would be something that we would be making people do. Then that $40,000 should have already been in the fire station budget, because we knew that we were going to be forced to do it.
And that not being my question or concern, there's probably been developers not do this, correct?
Yes.
And there's probably been developers that we have caused that to happen. And we have not affected the well. The well that we're talking about that's contaminated or damaged in some way, our building of the fire station didn't do that.
Yeah. He said he noticed it before starting on the construction.
Yeah. Do we have in the packet what the annual return would be right now on the additional customers?
No, if that's not in there.
And that's something you could provide us? Okay, because
No, this would not be adding sewer to this. It's just water.
and at some point there'd be a payoff.
Yes.
It might be 20 years.
Right.
And that's some information I'd like to see.
Sure. I can provide that.
Because Tom's making, from what I'm listening, this is the first time I've heard this, but, if we're not making every development do this, so that's not policy. If we're telling Mark Avenue, is that the name of the street, something different than we're telling or doing here, that's a concern. Is there a time frame? I know someone's well's messed up, but is there a time frame?
There's a cost benefit doing it while the fire station's going on as well.
And so one of my other points is, if they wanted the water run from Old Troy to the properties at the end, they could do that, but it would just cost a lot more than $40,000. So therefore, it's to their benefit to ask us to do this and then pay the $40,000 instead of waiting till later when it would cost $70,000 or $80,000. So if they came to the city with $40,000, it would be cheaper for them, and it wouldn't cost us $40,000.
And actually, this could also save us some money on the fire station as well, to have a shorter service line, run into a closer point on a new main.
But you would also pay part of that $40,000 to get the service line, right? You'd be extending the water main down to give you water.
The service line would cost us some money.
I mean, the service line's always going to cost you no matter
That's
what.
already budgeted, and we could actually save money on that.
Yeah. Okay. So we can negotiate some of the costs for the people that want it and pay some of the costs ourselves. But
Scott, what, if any, policy do we have currently set with regard to the discretionary choice to make a developer do this or not? We've talked a little bit here on this topic about it's discretionary or that it's optional and all of that. Do we have anything that helps either this council, or I could imagine this going to planning commission? What do we have to help us decide on this?
It's looked at what the next property is. An open farm field, yes, will require them to extend to that property line because your thought is it's going to develop one day. Those kinds of situations. If the property next to it is already developed, then there's no reason to extend to that point.
Okay. And if I heard earlier, I hadn't saw it in the packet, but some of the property, no wait, that's on the Mark Avenue. And this, all three affected properties, or all four affected properties, want to take advantage of this? Okay. So, because one thing I was thinking about is, on lighting districts and some other things, we require a certain percentage of the affected before we would consider going forward with this. This one is 100%, for lack of a better word, buy-in on it. Okay. Why was this area of properties not previously at some point brought into water? Is it because up to a certain point they've actually wanted wells and well water and the cost or lack of cost to it, and now that their wells are insufficient, they're now looking to benefit, or what?
We do not require somebody to tap in to our water if they have a working well. So if the water line was put in with Old Troy Pike years ago, I couldn't give you a good answer about why they decided not to.
All right, well, I recommend that we take it to the first reading and come back to the committee with recommendations and give us some time to think about it and see what our positions are as we go on to the next couple readings. And unless council has any other suggestions. All right, so we'll see this back in the committee of the whole work session.
Forward, of course, the actual bid itself will come back, and at that time, generally, we also ask those to be waived because we are put, among the scope of time frame of getting that bid and that work put together and going. So that is our ask as a result of discussion at the work session.
Typically, I like to see more readings versus not, but the other thing is this is to take something out to bid, and then the bid will come back for council review, and that is, I think, a much more substantive review, because this is not us saying put the papers out, but okay, what have we gotten in at that point?